Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and Brad and I are doing our top 10 video games of all time. Now, I know my channel is obviously primarily board game related, but we do occasionally go off script and talk about other stuff that's not board game related because there's other great mediums out there. And I mean, I'm sure this is the case for you, Brad, as well as it is for me, but video games have had a huge impact on my life. And
yeah. I've
like
been playing them for over 40 years because I started with Atari 2600 when I was like a little kid, and I've been obsessed with them since. So
yeah, exactly. So mine is not that long, but it's 25 years. I started probably around like 5 years old. I still remember the first console I got, which would have been the Nintendo 64. Like peak
kid.
I know. Peak video game like or console right there. So now if it's not a spoiler, like do you remember your first video game? Is that like on your top 10?
It's not on my top 10, no.
Okay.
Now, because I had a list, we talked about this before recording. I made a short list there was 50 games on my short list. I could have made a top 50 easily because of how many I've played and stuff. And most of the older stuff was like probably in like the 30s, 20s, 30s, just because so much cool stuff's going on. Now I will say there is one on here that is a pretty old game that is still in my top 10. But for the most part, most of it is kind of the new gen, within the last 2 decades, probably.
Yeah.
In the 2000s. Most of them, I
think that's the same for me. I know a lot of people hold like nostalgia and like high regard and stuff. But I typically don't. Just because it's like, I don't know. I tried to be somewhat objective a little bit about this. That's my number one and my number two will showcase that. To my knowledge, my very first video game was actually Mortal Kombat on the 64, which is just wild to think about because, I mean, I know when that game first came out, which wasn't the version I played, but it was like this huge polarizing thing. Because obviously it was super gory.
Yeah, mine was all Atari, like 2600, like those pixelated like blocks. You just move the block around the screen. Like Adventure was one, and that
what was
weird
the one?
boxing
Pit
game.
Is Pit one? I think Pit's on the Atari, where all
Pitfall?
it is like
Pitfall.
I think that's it. Yeah.
That was original. Pitfall was on that. That was the original stuff for me. And then my eyes got really opened up. I went and bought a bunch of the weird systems too. Like when the original PlayStation came out, the original Xbox, that whole deal, there was one called the Panasonic 3DO that came out at the same time.
Okay.
And my cousin had bought that and I played it before the others. I really liked it. So that's the one I spent $300 on back then. And
nice.
that was the loser of that battle, obviously. So
yeah, I'm like before the console wars really took off, and it's hard to jump in. But what we did is because this was insanely difficult. Like I didn't have as many as you on my short list. I think I had to run like 30, but I like hand picked ones. I played obviously well more than 30 games, but I picked ones that I knew had a chance of making the top 10. Like I didn't go and think
yeah, for sure,
just some indie game that I really liked, but it's like, oh, there's no way. There's like no.
I actually have my list on my phone of the top 30. So if any of yours pop in, I'll say where it was at on my list.
Okay. So yeah, as soon as I like had my 30, I went on Pub Meeple and I was like, all right, let's start this. And the very first option that popped up, I'm like, well,
yeah,
it was so hard to do.
Yeah, I didn't use Pub Meeple this time. I just went through. I kind of did a combination in my head about the replay of it, like how many times if I'm willing to replay the game even after I beat the story. It's not a one and done type game.
Yeah,
even though those were considered. I mean, some of them are that, of course, but those that gave them a little bit of an edge. If I replay the games,
sure.
stuff like that, if you get the emotion out of the game, if you get the
Hmm.
feelings out of the game, stuff like that, there was just a lot of stuff I brought into each one of them. So
Yeah. Yeah, same. Now I have done this list in the past, like years ago. It'd probably be like seven years ago, I think. It's been a very long time since I have done this. And I almost wanted to do the same idea of like having a different genre for games, like have a criteria of like, oh, here's my favorite indie game, here's my favorite
mhm.
shooter, but I ultimately didn't do that this time. This is just a flat 10 video games. And we also did one game per franchise.
Yes, that was a
So
that was a big hindrance for my
it
list.
really was, because if that was the case, then my number one would be different.
Mhm.
Uh, and actually some of these games probably wouldn't make it. However, because we had to pick one, that did make it a little bit challenging in where it was going to go, and also you had to pick your favorite in the franchise
Right,
if it's a
right.
really good franchise. Um,
Yep.
so we can obviously talk about what like the franchise as a whole, but we can then talk about why we picked a certain one
Yeah.
out of it. All right. I think we've delayed long enough. So I believe I'm always first on these. So let's go ahead and start with an honorable mention, which is a hold on, I need to make sure I have my list. I looked it up earlier. Yes. So my honorable mention is a game that has stuck with me since I first played it, and it was like my foray into JRPGs, and there's been a lot. Actually, this is kind of a franchise, even though none of them are really related to each other. And that is,
Oh shit. Sorry. There you go.
well, it's this. It's Tales of
There you
Symphonia.
go.
I'm like, wait, what happened? Yeah, so
Double
Tales of
click.
Symphonia is a fantastic JRPG. This is in the Tales of series. There's the other one that I have played in this is Tales of Vesperia, which is also really really good. But this one I played at like a peak age, which is probably why it stuck with me the most. I think I must have been around like 12 or 13 when this came out on the GameCube is whenever I played it. And I remember my mom got it for me for like Christmas or birthday, and it was the one time she got me a video game that was actually good because she was never
Yeah.
really great about getting me games. Um, so it's one of those where it's like anime style, when the characters talk in like whenever you're wandering the road, there'll be like a button prompt that you hit, and it'll pull up certain characters and they'll have a discussion. All the characters are completely fleshed out as you would. So like I love anime. I'm actually currently on like an anime binge right now. Uh, so you're gonna be your atypical anime characters. The big moments in the game are very anime-esque, so they're grandiose and over the top and overacted. Uh, but high emotion. You can do completely different character builds. Like all these four characters that they're showing are like you can just build them in different ways with different special abilities. The combat is kind of like a slightly free roam. Like they didn't do turn based, which was nice. But you do kind of control one character and the rest are on like auto. You can switch to them to fight with them if you want. But yeah, the overall story for this has stuck with me. I'm also going to try and avoid spoilers just in case anyone ever wants to try to
Right.
play these games. This is on Steam if you play on PC, but uh, yeah, the story for this has just stuck with me for years, and I own this game, and I really have been itching to go back and replay it because yeah, that's kind of it where like it's weird. I'm not really huge into AAA games at this moment. I've been doing a lot of indie, like smaller games, and JRPGs, and that's pretty much it. But yeah, my number 11, and well, here's a fun. So, my wife and I have no desire to have any kids, but if we ever did, and it was a girl, the girl name that has been in my head that I would pick is actually from this game.
Right.
So the main girl in this, her name is Colette, and I'm just always attached to that name. So that's the thing. I'll never use it, but it's like, hey, like something about this game just stuck with me. So that's my number 11.
Awesome. Well, my number 11 is the newest game on my list. I didn't put it in the top 10 because of that reason. I'm still currently playing the hell out of this game. It's kind of the hotness right now in the video game industry. And that is Diablo 4.
Nice.
I've played all the Diablos throughout, even the old PC, click and run, click and attack games, all that stuff. Really love Diablo 3 that came out a handful of years ago. And then I was really excited when this came out. I mean, I've played just since it came out in June. I've played, well, there's an app you can keep track of your game time. Like you put your battle tag in and it keeps track. I've played 3 days worth on this game, and that's the lowest. Like me and all that guy, the board game group like Chad's and all those guys, they've like doubled me, if not more.
Wow.
And game time. So I mean, I'm kind of low on the low end and stuff, but it's just awesome. I mean, you're constantly, there's so much to do in this game. You are having your big battles. You power up your people. It has all these skill trees, and you can just go through and change your total build at any point throughout the game. I run a whirlwind barbarian, so I just like spin around with this big ass 2-handed hammer and just smack people. You can do different versions of that. And just the visuals are really cool, even though it's pulled back a little bit, like you see on this picture. Like all the blood is realistic and all that.
Yeah, this does look really good.
It is really, really good, and it's even funner. Like I was worried because I'd heard, well, you can't solo dungeons and stuff in this game like you could in Diablo 3. So I got worried about that because I didn't want to have to rely on gaming with Chad and all those guys. And it scales to you. Like if you're the only one playing in your group, it's still challenging. It's not like it's easier, but the more people you have in your group, the more stuff comes at you. So it's so it scales to player count.
Nice. Okay.
So which is another awesome thing, because I could go through and beat stuff, but then there's some stuff that is super difficult that I might hop on and everybody get on the same clan and go through and whoop some ass and stuff. But this one's one that, given time, like if it was another 6 months and we were doing this list, this would probably be much higher, just because of the amount of fun I've had with this game and this franchise. So
this is one that, like, I haven't played Diablo 4 and I've barely played Diablo 3. This is just one that missed the mark for me. I tried 3 a little bit, and it's such a weird thing, but it's like it was so easy, like, because I'm huge into story, as we'll find out, that it's like you have this one boss in 3 that's just like, I will end the world and one shot. It's like,
this one's not that. The Diablo 3 was more arcadey, like
and
this one is like, this is it whips your ass. I mean, it's a challenging game, so, and you can choose the difficulty because there's world tiers, so you can choose do world tier 1 all the way up to world tier 4. World tier 4 is recommended for, like, if you're in level 80 and up to 80 to 100.
Gotcha. They don't hard cap you on difficulty like 3 did,
right?
Because 3 was like, I'd like to go on the hardest difficulty. You got to beat the game first. It's like, I don't want to. Like, I want to have fun now.
Yeah, this is it's just a blast. But it's
interesting. I might check it out cool. Then.
If you do, holler at me and we can get you added.
Nice. Okay, awesome.
July 20th, season 1 comes out of the.
I was wondering if they were doing any DLC.
Yep.
Okay.
Anyway, that's mine.
That's a good one. All right. Now, my number 10, there we go, is the lowest game that's from this company. But it's I mean, it obviously still hit the top 10. I actually just watched another person's like speed run of this game, and it's just so masterfully done. I've beaten it. I've gotten every ending for this game possible, and I still, that was on console, and it's like I have it on PC now, and it's like, ooh, I should go back and play that because it's just so good. And that is Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. This is a game by FromSoft, where it's actually not really considered part of their like Soulsborne series. It's their offshoot, and it's like, it makes you think, it's like, oh shit, if this is their offshoot game, like that's just it's just amazing. I love the setting of this game, the feudal Japan, and with the mystical element surrounding it is just extremely intriguing. I know when this came out, everyone thought it was the hardest FromSoft game that has come out. Then that has since changed because this game introduces like a posture system, so it's all about, instead of dodging through attacks or or blocking, it's all about parrying. So it has this beautiful, when you're in any fight, it has this beautiful dance between swordsmen and like whatever you're fighting. Because this actually introduces like a sneak element because you're like this rogue. You are a samurai, but you kind of have ninja-esque abilities as well. You have a prosthetic arm that has different types of attacks, like shuriken or firecrackers, or like a iron shield umbrella. You're also introduced to like different ways you can use attacks instead of just swinging your sword. You have like special attacks you can do. Now, don't get me wrong, this game is not easy by any means. Like, there's so many bosses that just have, that throw the entire system on its head, and anyone who's played this game will know exactly like the bosses I'm talking about. But man, just I remember when this game first came out, I went up on a boss. And here's the other thing about this game is, like, in all the Souls games, like if you have a difficult time with a boss, well, you can just go back, grind a little, level up, use a different weapon, get different items, and go back and try again. Here, the only way you increase your health and your attack power is by beating bosses, is by beating, there's mini bosses in the game. So you kind of just have to get good to be able to advance, which some people might not like, and I get that. Uh, but I remember being stuck on a boss, and I texted my friend, and I was like, "Dude, I need to get out of my house. I'm so mad. Like, can I just come over?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, head on over." So I went over, and he got to the same boss, and she did the same attack that was one-shotting me, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, you have to jump over that," and I'm like, "I'm sorry, what?" He's like, "Yeah, that's the attack you have to jump over." I'm like, "Oh, I'll be right back." So I went home and then beat the boss like that next try. There's just something about these FromSoft games, and with Sekiro's feudal Japan setting, the multiple endings which I've gotten, and still the desire to go back and play it. It's so good. I have like no issues with this game at all, except that there's no DLC.
Yeah.
That's the most frustrating part. Is there's not a lot they can do. It is a really good self-contained story, but there is like one or two ideas that I have had that they could do. I mean, it's still not out of the question, but I mean, it's been like 3 years since it came out, I think. No, it's been longer. Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
it's been a little bit. I remember seeing the
Yeah,
stories.
I think this actually came out in 2019. God
So 4 years.
damn, yeah, 4 years ago. Yeah, because I was like, there's no way it came out during COVID. Wow. Anyway, it's fantastic. I would actually say, out of all the FromSoft games, this is a really good one to start with because you're not, it plays so different from the other ones that you don't have to unlearn something to jump into this. It'd probably be easier, but What do I know? Yeah, that's my number 10, Sekiro.
Right. My number 10 is a game in a long series of games that have come out over the last few decades. This one is the last three games that came out for this series was kind of a trilogy in its own right. And this is the middle one of those. And I've played all 11 of these, and that is Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Okay.
Um, the original Tomb Raiders, I didn't care for as much just because, I mean, I liked them for the puzzle nature, like the
Mhm.
whole you're trying to figure out the puzzle of
You're
getting
talking about the triangle boobed one, right?
all right, right. So,
Okay.
but these three that came out, it was Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and then Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I think was the third one. And these last three, they
I
up
do
their
not
game
remember.
visual. They up their game visually. And it's kind of a mix. Like if I was going to compare it to anything, I would say it was like a mix of Uncharted. Like the gameplay because it's that third person view,
Mhm.
and you're doing a lot of sneaking in this game, which you're going to find on my list is a lot of my stuff. I like to sneak around and take people out and stuff like that. But you can ambush people. Um, it's just so visually stunning and so well done. It's like
Mhm.
you're sneaking around doing these puzzles like you do in all the Tomb Raider games. But they're really challenging. They're really cool looking and beautiful. But then they've brought in this trilogy. They've brought in where combat is a really major thing because most of the time combat was a thing in all of them, but this one's like combat. Like you sneak around and actively take people out, and it's brutal. And the bow and arrow technique is awesome, and
Mhm.
it's just a really really cool trilogy to play. That what I like. The reason this one's the one I chose because when the first of this trilogy came out, it had the visuals. They all looked the
Mhm.
same visually, but the gameplay kind of had some weird stuff, and they listened to the fans, and then they fixed all that crap. And when they put it into this one, like this one's the perfect one of all of them, where
Yeah.
the gameplay is seamless, the combat is seamless. It's all just the AI is really good, um, and stuff like that. So yeah, Rise of the Tomb Raider. This is one that I have replayed multiple times, and
Yeah, I
it's a
played
really good
this
one.
one and the first one,
Yeah,
but never
Shadows
played
is
the
really
third
good too.
one.
Shadows is a good conclusion.
I watched my friend play it. Um, and I think he also liked all of them. Um, but I think around the time guide, because it's hard to tell when video games come out. I think at the time I was playing like the Uncharted series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this one came out in
2015.
2015.
Yeah,
Yep. So, and then when did Uncharted 4 come out?
that
That
was a little
came out,
later.
2016.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, I think I remember borrowing this game from a friend, uh, and playing through it. And yeah, I mean it's good. Like it's if you like those kind of Indiana Jones,
Mm-hmm.
um, mythical like land, like those rumored lands that
Mm-hmm.
either may or may not have existed. Both of those series are great. And yeah, Lara Croft is awesome. So this is a good one.
All right.
Okay, my number 9. Take a good old gander. Yeah, all right. So my number 9, I was gonna say 3. My number 9 is it is a trilogy of series, and I know this is gonna be super controversial, and I love all three of these. Um, but my favorite one in this series is actually the last one in it, uh, and that is Mass
Mm.
Effect 3.
3/2,
And
huh?
huh?
3/2, huh?
They're all great. I think
No.
one is even fantastic. And typically in a trilogy, the first one is usually my favorite because I'm really big into the beginning, like the kickoff of a story,
Mhm.
especially if it's an epic. And Mass Effect is nothing if not an epic. And I know this game was hated whenever it came out. But my defense to that is, in terms of an overall story, like, because Mass Effect was known for like its huge decisions, and the
Mm.
decisions that you made had an impact, and that is still true for all three games. But if you take and I guess slight spoilers, I'm not going to go into too specifics, but everyone hates this whole game because of just the final ending, and I still think that the ending as a story is still good. Yeah, your choices didn't ultimately impact the entire ending. But there was no way that was ever going to happen anyway. Like, the thing is, it's like that pedestal was set too high. How could you ever think that your 50 different choices over the course of 3 games was going to let you impact a million? That it's just too much. So you have to find some way to wrap it all up. And with the choices that they gave you, I thought that they were still pretty good because it impacted the overall story. Now, the reason why I choose this one over the other two is because, not just for the ending, like, I mean, if someone doesn't like the ending, they don't like the ending. But it wrapped up every character's story in such an emotional way that has stuck with me since I played it. In fact, I have 2 tattoos on my back. They're like a collage of a bunch of different video games. And at the time I got the one on my left shoulder, I just finished playing Mass Effect 3, so a small part of the Mass Effect emblem is actually incorporated in that. But yeah, I like, because all the characters are extremely well done. Your romance, whoever you choose to romance throughout the entire series, that's extremely well done. I just think the way that they handled a lot of the main characters and how their stories wrap up, or how they're done, is just so good. It's hard to talk about it without going into too much spoilers,
Right,
but
right.
because Mass Effect 2 is still so good, but it's an offshoot, kind of. Like, it's the same with Dragon Age 1 to Dragon Age 2. It's like, here's Mass Effect, your major story, and then Mass Effect 2 is like, oh, here's this kind of side story that's still integral to the entire series, but they're not really connected. And then
Yeah,
Mass Effect 3 kind
sorry.
of puts them together.
I had my Mass Effect 2 was my number 12.
Oh,
So I
okay.
just missed my
I
my
mean,
list.
I totally get that. Mass Effect 2 is great, and it introduces a whole range of characters. And it's really, Mass Effect 2 is kind of, I would almost say, integral to how well Mass Effect 3 is, because if you do really bad in 2, you
Mhm.
could lose a lot of characters, and
Yeah.
you're not going to get their stories wrapped up.
Yep.
But the Paragon Renegade system is awesome. Like, I think I think the gameplay just improved in this one. Like, the combat is just leaner and it's quicker. It's not as clunky as it was in Mass Effect 1. They just improved as the series went on. So yeah, I mean, I knew this one is probably gonna be like, how could you do it's
Oh no, I
like,
like
they're
this one too. I mean, Mass Effect 2 to me was the one that out of the series that I
yeah,
enjoyed playing the most. And it just barely missed my list, but they're all
sure.
good. I never did
Sure.
play Andromeda though.
Yeah, I'm not including that one. I
Yeah.
did. It's bad. It's gotten better since they, patched the hell out of it, but that was the beginning of the end for BioWare.
Yeah.
Um, they've and it's not necessarily their fault that BioWare is nothing now. Everyone just left.
Yeah. Yep.
So I know Dragon Age 4 is still slated to come out. It's just like, nah, it's not happening, dude. That's not going to be great. Which is a shame, because BioWare was a huge name in the industry for so long.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that is my number 9, Mass Effect 3.
Awesome. My number 9 is a game I know you don't like. But with the way I like to play games, where I am constantly sneaking around, constantly picking people off to obtain objectives and stuff. And then I also am kind of a history buff. That my number 9 game of all time is Sniper Elite 5.
I mean, I will say this is the best one
Yeah.
out of all of them.
Yeah,
I've played 3, 4, and this one. I was like, because it's on Game Pass, or it
Mhm.
was at one point. I'm like, maybe this time. And then
Well,
I'm like, nope, never mind.
3 and 4 were fine, and I liked them, but this is the game that put it up on this list because of the AI was better in 5. The graphics, of course, the graphical, that's awesome. Like I love the whole X-ray vision death stuff. So when you shoot them and it goes and it shows where it goes through and the damage it does on the inside and all
Yeah.
that stuff. And
That is cool.
and my favorite thing in any war game is to snipe. And this is just all about sneaking, because running and gunning is not, you're not going to be super successful in this if you just go in, run and gun. You have to pick people off, and you have to set traps, and you have to lure people away and do all this different stuff. And that just fits right into my wheelhouse with the way I like to play these kinds of games. And which has a direct impact on why I enjoy the board game so much, is because when you're controlling the sniper in the board game, you know, you're kind of doing that stuff. But just the background art and stuff, you know, the everything looks really, really cool in this game. And it's, the bullet drops accurate and everything. I mean, it's just a really, really cool deal. The storyline of number 5 is the best in the series as well.
Are they connected? Is it the same guy?
It's the same guy. Yeah.
Okay.
He goes to different parts of the world.
He's probably like, I'm so fucking
takes place
tired.
Like, it takes place during like the whole 40s, World War II. Like
okay.
he's in Germany in one time, and then he's in you know, he goes to France in another, and he goes around because he gets kind of picked to come and work on these missions. Like this one, you're just trying to take out the highest ranking Nazi person because they have this whole nuclear like sub weapon thing that they're trying to do, and you're just trying to thwart it and stuff. But just the gameplay of this is just awesome. I just love headshotting people from a long ways away and all that stuff. It's just really cool strategy of trying to hide yourself and, you know, not get caught, swarmed and all that stuff.
Yeah, because once you get caught, it's like, well, I might as well restart this level.
Well, and you can run and hide, because if you hide,
you can,
enough, and then they don't see you, then they kind of go back on patrol, and then you can establish yourself and stuff. But yeah, this one is my favorite war game.
Okay.
You know, because all the rest of my games are not really war games like this.
Gotcha. Gather mine. I mean, technically yes, but yeah, in terms of like history, war, no. I remember playing the I think it was the first Call of Duty, and that being just that opening like D-Day thing that they had on the very first one. I remember being like a kid and just thinking that was just so epic. And it was like, it's not like I'm going back and be like, oh man, that's childish. Like, it's just they have a way of making it extremely impactful. But
yeah, because Call of Duty, I didn't, spoiler, it did not make my list, even though I've played it tons and tons and tons.
Yeah.
But I played Call of Duty back before it was Call of Duty, when it was called Medal of Honor. Because Medal of Honor before Call of Duty and all that stuff, and I played through all those too and everything. But yeah, that one.
Yeah, I think of them more as multiplayer now.
Like it is. It's a toxic community.
Exactly. So I have no multiplayer, like on my multiplayer games on my list. One almost made it. One was actually very close, but it didn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, good choice. Like I knew this was gonna be on your list at some point. I'm actually surprised it's not higher, so I'm very intrigued to see what's next.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so my number 8 is actually one that kind of surprised me because this is a game that I never would have considered to be in my top 10, like obviously years ago. Well, years ago wasn't out, but I wasn't really into these style games, and now I'm super into them, and it's all thanks to this game. I have well over 100 hours into it. I have gotten every achievement for it, which was a grind, but it didn't feel like a grind just of how fantastic this game is, and that is Hades. So Hades is a roguelite game by Supergiant. I've actually played other Supergiant games, but this is easily their biggest and most popular one. And it's centered around the Greek pantheon, done in a beautifully artistic way. Like, I love the art direction that this team took and the liberties that they did with the way all the different gods look is just fantastic. But there are just endless possibilities of different builds here. And then a roguelike, that's what I want. Like, it's not enough for me to kind of just go in and pick a weapon, you know? It's like, oh, try it with a different weapon. It's like, well, they have that here, but because you have, I think it's six different weapons, 5 or 6 different weapons, each with 5 different like ways that they play on top of the like hundreds of different boons that you can get in each run. So every run you could just be like, I'm gonna try this weapon with this set of boons, and you can just do that an endless amount of times. And not only that, like that would be enough, but they have what's called the Pact of Punishment, where each run you have a bunch of different criteria you can set on yourself to make the game more difficult. I mean, it'd be hard pressed to say there's a single roguelike out there that's better than this. Just in terms of sheer popularity and how, like, because each time you do a run, you get a little bit more stuff that give you, but like more health or more things to do a little better each time. And not only that, the amount of dialogue that is in this game is just insane. Every time you're coming across new people, they have something new to say. And the story for this is also really good. Like, that's the thing that a lot of roguelikes do not have, is a story, and this one does. And that's something that every time, whenever you die, it's not like, God, do I have to start all fucking, like, I have to start over again? Like, you're kind of excited to go back to the main hub because it's like, oh, now I get to talk to people and get more dialogue and more story. And okay, I got all that. That was a nice, breather. Okay, time to try the run again. Yeah, there's just so much to this. I haven't 100% of the game in a very long time, and this one I went out of my way to do it. And there's actually a sequel coming out, which no one thought was ever going to happen because Supergiant doesn't make sequels. So from the little that's been revealed on that, I am very, very excited for Hades 2. So yeah, I mean, if you don't like roguelikes or roguelites, I highly recommend this one because I have a feeling it would change some people's mind and kind of get you in the mindset of trying other ones. Because since then I've played so many more. Like, right. I know the original, like, I think Binding of Isaac was one. I did try that one, and I was like, no, like this one's a little too edgelord for me. So I think I'll just pass. But I have a bunch in my Steam library that I have because I'm just on this, roguelike kick. Yep. And it's all thanks to this game. So the amount of hours I put into it just warranted putting it on my list, and still even wanting to play it like afterwards. It's like there's not much left for me to do, but it's like, yeah, I can do a few runs in Hades just to play it because every weapon feels good, every build feels good.
I have it downloaded off of Game Pass. I just haven't played it yet.
It's definitely challenging, but like eventually you get to a point, you have enough permanent upgrades that you will beat it. And then like once you beat it like once or 2 times, it's like, oh, okay, now you can start, making it more challenging for yourself. But it's not like, because Dead Cells has something similar where once you beat it, you can make the game harder, but it's almost like a flat thing of like, enemies have more health, they deal more damage. And here you get to pick. Like you have a plethora of options of being like, okay, I'm gonna set myself a time limit. So
Right.
now I have to beat each biome in 9 minutes. I'm gonna make the enemies harder. I'm gonna make it to where there's more enemies. I'm gonna make it to where, I take extra trap damage, just stuff like that.
Right.
That they just gave a lot of freedom to the player, which is something that not a lot of roguelikes do. So highly recommend this one. That is my number 8, Hades.
All right. My number 8 is the oldest game on my list. It's a Super Nintendo classic from 1995.
Wow.
And this one is
I was
my
2 years old. I was
this
two
is my
years old.
this is my favorite game of this style still to this date. I've tried other ones. They don't do what this one does. My mom even, this is her favorite game. Like she even played it back in the day, and she doesn't play video games that often. So, and that is Chrono Trigger.
Nice. This is on my Steam. It's in my Steam library, so
Yeah, yeah.
I very much have an interest in this one.
This one is just freaking badass. Now the graphics, of course. I mean,
No, they're
they are.
8-bit. It's fantastic.
Yeah, but this one did a lot of stuff. It was ahead of its time, kind of, because there's like time travel.
Hmm.
There's like a lot of stuff from like the guy that did Final Fantasy did this game. Like so like
Okay.
it's a whole it kind of Final Fantasy copied some stuff from this, the later iterations of Final Fantasy, and all this different stuff. But it's such a heartwarming story too, like when you're actually playing it, because it's not like because when you're playing Chrono,
Hmm.
he's the main protagonist guy, and it's got a really good story too. It's not just like run around, oh, here's an encounter, we're gonna do this and stuff. There's actually like some heart put into it, and it's
Yeah.
actually a really good story, and it's the kind of JRPG that I enjoy, where it
Hmm.
is turn based. Like I went and bought that one Final Fantasy, for PS5 that came out. The
Oh,
United Seven, this
Final
remake
Fantasy
for
7,
Seven, and
the remake.
I got rid of it already because
Wow.
I hate these kind. I like the old school of these where it's turn based. I don't like the running around actiony where other people trying to control or other people's doing shit and everything. Like
Gotcha.
I like the whole planning and be able to put the attack here, do these different things. So that's why this one's still up on my list. Like I like the old original Final Fantasy games that were like that too.
Hmm.
One of the differences with this though from some of them is, you know how like in the old Final Fantasies you just be walking around and like a random encounter would pop up. You ran into something. Here's the encounter.
Yeah.
This one, those encounters are roaming around on the screen. So if
Okay.
you can dodge them if you want to, or you can run into them and get them. Sometimes there's an ambush where they
Yeah.
like pop out of a tree or something like that, and then you do a.
Yeah. Tales of Symphonia, my number 11, does the same
Mhm.
thing. You can see the enemy and be like, I don't really feel like fucking fighting right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Or it's like, oh,
But
I need to level up. Let's go ahead and start fighting.
and some of the attacks you get on like Chrono and stuff is just so the way they do the animation just makes it like, damn, that was a
Hmm.
powerful attack. I mean, it's they just really did some cool shit with this game, and yeah, I mean, this is still my favorite of this kind of game to this day, and
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, it's certainly definitely a staple because, I mean, people are still playing it to this day. Like I bought it, obviously not on Super Nintendo, it's on Steam, but like I mean, I will say that like I think 8-bit art is one of the best. There's just something about it. Like games that are releasing in 2023 are still coming out with 8-bit graphics because there's just a semblance of beauty that can still be encapsulated with it.
mhm.
Um, like I would say 8-bit art is better than like the way the original Final Fantasy VII looked. Like some of those character art like models, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah,
Like, is that even a person? That looks like 3 triangles put together. Uh, so yeah, I haven't played this one. like myself, but it's on the list.
Yeah, it's very
But
good.
I also really like the combat that is now. I did buy. Did I buy it? I think I did. Final Fantasy VII. Where are you? Yes, I did buy the Final Fantasy VII um remake. Uh, but I also enjoy that kind of run around type of combat. The way
Well,
Final Fantasy 15 included, like, had that as well.
well, and another thing is I like my JRPGs to be like more fantastical, like swords and stuff. Like those Final Fantasies nowadays are like there's machine guns
Yeah,
and all stuff, and I don't care for that as much. I'd rather have the big swords and whacking people and doing stuff.
right. Yeah, I
So
got
anyway,
you.
that's my number 8, Chrono Trigger.
Okay. Speaking of big swords, how about a big axe? Because my number 6, uh,
You're 7.
my number 7. Hold on, let me. Nope. Yeah. Okay, that's correct. My number 7. Yeah, my number 6 is not anything like a big sword. My number 7 is actually it's one of the newest games on my list. It's definitely the one I've played more recently. And it's actually not a game I own because I don't have the console that this fucking game is still on. I'm waiting for the PC release because I just don't want to buy a console. I just don't want to. I'd rather spend $500 on a board game. Um, it'll eventually get a PC release, I'm hoping, because the first one did. This one is technically a sequel in a long-running series, but it's kind of been soft rebooted. And so my number 7 is God of War Ragnarok.
Very good.
So like I said, there was God of War 1, 2, and 3, and then some PSP games that no one played or cared about. But then they soft rebooted the series with God of War 2018, which is in the Norse mythology. And God of War, I do own that one, and that one is really really good too. Has a lot of emotional impact. The gameplay is fantastic. I think both these games have way better gameplay than the original trilogy, but it's a different style. That was a hack and slash. This is not necessarily that. But a friend of mine does have a PS5, and I was like, "Hey, I'm off for like the next 5 days. Can I borrow your console? And I'm sure I can beat it by then." And I did. Like I crunched through this game, like played probably like 11 hours. Like it was a work shift of trying to play it before I had to go bring his console back. But god damn, the amount of times I teared up throughout this series or throughout this game alone, I'm just like, dude, I can't with this game right now. Not only is the gameplay just fantastic, this is an awesome screenshot.
Yeah.
The gameplay is just, if you like 2018, it's just better. They actually give you different ways to build Kratos, like different armor sets to go for different types of styles and attacks, and um your preferred weapon, whether it's the axe or the blades of chaos. It's it's just expanded upon a lot more. The groundwork that was done in 6 is culminated here in Ragnarok. So ended on a note that I was very, very happy with. Extremely excited to see what they do with this, if they take what direction they take it in. My hope, and this is a pipe dream because there's no way they would ever do it. My hope is they actually go back and redo the original trilogy in this style,
Yeah.
like storytelling wise, so it's not so campy. But man, if it was like how God of War Ragnarok is, imagine like the original Greek mythology done with the writing and the storytelling that they had for this. It'd be amazing.
Yeah,
But
all the HD banging scenes, like
yeah, right.
hit X,
Ooh.
hit X, hit X,
Yeah, so it's I mean, this one I think is definitely the best in the series. I don't want to get into any spoilers, but there's lot of fantastic. I'm actually watching a let's play of someone play this right now just because I don't have a way of replaying it myself. So I'm like, I'll just relive it through him. It's so good.
Yeah, it's top notch for sure.
So, and this one came out last year. It was a contender for game of the year, and I would not have been upset if it won.
Yeah,
because
sure.
I think it's that good. But that's my number 7, God of War Ragnarok.
All right. My number 7 is a game, and this is going to be. It's in a series of. There's 6 games in the series, I want to say, but this is the original because the original is on this list. It came out 2006, and it is one of those games that hit me really hard. It was very unique when it first came out. That's why the original is on here, because there wasn't anything like this at the time, and that is Gears of War.
Nice. Yeah,
Um,
this series was definitely on my list or first time I did it.
yeah, I just
Um,
this game when it came out and being able to curb stomp people, uh, or the chainsaw bayonets, that was like the
yeah,
coolest thing in hell. Like just chainsawing a locust right in half, and the blood
right.
flying everywhere. Getting an or if you get into a chainsaw like against a bad guy, and you're like hitting their chainsaws against each other.
Yeah.
Let's see what pictures she put here. Oh, how about that?
Oh, nice.
So like
That's a
they're
good one.
you can go up against each other and everything, and it's the rest of them are better graphically, obviously, just because of how games progressed. But
Mm-hmm.
the original's on here because it introduced the world, kind of like what you're talking about with Mass Effect.
Yeah.
It introduced this world. It was cutting edge in its time. It had that whole can't remember what they called it, that whole running deal, like how you kind of troop ran
Oh,
and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
They had
yeah.
a word for it, but and you
But
used
kind of like
cover
that charge system.
yeah, and cover
Yeah.
was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just such a cool new fresh game, and fresh idea and stuff, and the weaponry was cool. The bad guys were cool because they were like bugs for all intents, they were just swarming you constantly. And you can like chuck those little bolo grenades into their little pits to seal
Yeah.
the hole and stuff. Is the boss battles were awesome in this game.
Oh man, that final fight and like did
Right.
the remake that they did, the anniversary edition, the final like zone on that train, it like made me nauseous
Yeah, I
just
haven't
because it's
played
like
the
everything's
upgrade
like
version yet.
running, like you're on the train, so everything's moving past you, but you're stationary.
Right.
So it's kind of like yeah, just staring in one spot, but peripherals are catching things moving super fast. I think the higher graphics, I was like, I feel sick.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And the multiplayer is fun with this too, doing like the waves where the waves of locusts just come and you're just taking my.
mhm.
It's just one of those games. The series is all awesome. There isn't one that I dislike of any of them.
Oh, but that yeah, that's definitely not true for me. I think Judgment Day is awful.
Well, I'm I'm
Um,
I'm mainly counting 1 through 5,
oh,
like
okay, yeah,
as a
I was
series,
because I don't like
because
4 or
Judgment Day
5
is like
either.
because Judgment was a shoot off a little bit like a prequel,
Yeah, I
and
was like in between 2 and 3, I
yeah, because
think.
Gears of War Judgment was a prequel, and then like Gears Tactics was another weird offshoot of it and stuff. But
Yeah, Judgment followed Baird for some reason.
yeah, yeah.
I
So
don't know.
one through
I couldn't
five
get
was the ones
into
I enjoyed.
I couldn't get into 4 or 5. Um, it just didn't seem to have the same heart, the same
Right.
writing that. But the original trilogy, yeah, is peak.
Yeah.
Um, I always go back and forth on which one I like more between 2 and 3 because there's one moment in both of those games that is like
Hmm.
it's like peak, like heart-wrenching. And it's
Yeah,
like,
and
man.
I fought with that because I put this original on here just because of the groundbreaking part of it.
Hmm.
Story wise, I would probably say 3.
3,
That's
yeah.
the is my
I think
favorite.
that's what I lean to as well. But it is a very solid trilogy. Um, I don't think they're making anymore because I don't think
No,
4 and 5 did that well. So, but yeah, if you're wanting, because you're right, this did introduce like a completely new type of shooter, and that didn't feel like it was. I mean, you can obviously make your comparisons to Halo, but they're so different in terms of gameplay
right.
that I think this series stands on its own. Yeah, good
Yeah.
choice. Okay, my number 6. We're going in a completely different direction here. Like you could not have a more polar opposite type of game from this one to my number 6. Because my number 6, you can play entirely pacifist. Like you do not have to kill a single enemy, and that is that actually leads to the best ending in the game. I have played this game multiple times. I actually recently replayed this game with Kat and did the pacifist ending because it's just so heartwarming. This is a very feel-good game. So my number 6 is Undertale. Undertale is designed, written, and I think the music is also done by one guy. And it's a story like about a kid falling into a pit and there are monsters underneath. Like, but yeah, fucking art. Like like this is definitely like kind of like a unique indie style game. But the cast of characters that you come across with your kid who doesn't speak or anything, like just tells you an entire story. And you can play this game where there are like 3 major endings. The pacifist one where you don't kill a single enemy, like no bosses. It does that kind of where you run around a zone and then you're ambushed, like a Pokemon style kind of like thing. Where you don't kill a single random enemy. There are always ways for you to spare them. And all that leads to me, the best ending. But you can go the Annihilist route where you kill everyone. Like there are times where if you kill every enemy, like a random pop-up will be like, there's no one left here. And that's another ending you can get. But I just think the writing that's done for all the characters is so heartwarming, and this game is funny. Has a lot of like meta humor in it. The music is done so well that it spawned a bunch of different like covers, metal covers, because it was just written incredibly well. Yeah, this is one I could always come back to. Like I'm sure in a few years I'll be like, you know what, I kind of feel like playing Undertale again. I have done every single ending. Like my first playthrough of this, I didn't know about the pacifist or annihilist route, so I just killed some enemies and moved on. I didn't kill every single one, and that gives you a different type of ending as well. So I'm just absolutely charmed by this game. Like every single time I play it, I'm just more engrossed into it. I don't think the designer has done anything since then, because his name is Toby Fox.
I have never heard of this game, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it came out like it was like super small whenever it originally came out, but then like picked up like huge popularity within the indie community. Yeah, I'm trying to see. There was Undertale, which came out in 2015. Wow. Oh, he has done other. Well, has he? Yes. Okay. There's a game called Deltarune that he did, so I might have to look into that. But this is kind of his most famous game.
Right.
So I don't know if you would like this. I'd imagine not.
Yeah. Doesn't look like something I would really get into,
But yeah,
I want to
huh?
I want to
You
kill
want-
everything. So
you can very much do that. But it's almost kind of like in Mass Effect, whenever you go the Paragon route and then you go Renegade and you're like, now I feel bad. At least
Yeah.
that's how I am. I'm like, I always play the hero. In any type of RPG, I always try to play the hero. And
Mhm.
on subsequent playthroughs, it's like, all right, here's
Yeah.
his alter ego. But then I'm like mean to like Garrus in Mass Effect, and I'm like, I didn't like saying that to you.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And this game does the exact same thing, at least for me. It's like just there's so much heart put into this game that it's wonderful on every playthrough. So that's my number 6, Undertale.
All right, my number 6 is a game that might be on your list. I don't know what your opinion
I don't
is
think
fully on this.
I don't
Um,
think we will have a single crossover.
you don't think we'll have a single crossover, huh?
I do not think so.
Um, I
I
was gonna
guess
guess.
based off this one,
I was gonna guess 3 crossovers
3
at the very
crossovers.
beginning.
Wow.
Yeah, so we'll see. But anyway, this one's one that is my favorite of this series. This series has been going for many years. I love them all. But this one just recently got a remake, and it is just rekindled everything. It's so badass playing this game again, and that is Resident Evil 4.
It was on my short list.
Yeah.
I have not played the remake.
Oh, the remake's so damn
So
good. So good.
so it probably honestly it probably would have snuck in there had
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
I actually played it.
As good as Resident Evil 4 was, like on the GameCube, and stuff like that when it first came out,
Mhm.
this new version, the way they've amped up the graphics and the AI is so much better, and
Mhm.
it's so much more tense. If it could get any more tense, because Resident Evil 4 was pretty tense anyway when you
Yeah.
played it back in the original form, but this version is just bonkers with how.
Because Resident Evil 4 balanced that action that 5 and 6
Mhm,
went too far on,
right.
and the horror that the original, like the first 3 had. Resident Evil 4 was that perfect balance. So it was even considered for my top 10 just based off the GameCube version
Uh-huh.
alone, because
Oh
it
yeah.
introduced top over the top shooters.
Uh-huh. Yeah. No, and this there and the acting is better in this one. I mean, because you can tell the voice acting's even upgraded a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, the I just don't know, like just the whole surroundings and everything. Like, there's parts when you play this, you're gonna remember. I'll be, oh, if I go around this corner, I know that there's something. I remember there being something over here, and it
Nice.
is, but yet it's different. Like,
Cool.
it's not frame for frame the same game. I mean, they've made
Mhm.
changes. They've changed. There are things within certain areas like that you can do to get, like, there's little blue plates that are hanging in different parts. If you can
Oh
shoot all 10
yeah.
of those in an area, you get a big bonus and stuff. And they're
Mhm.
hidden really well. And the monsters look really creepy. They've got that over the top creepiness factor that was really cool in the GameCube version, but even more scary in this one.
Yeah.
And the sound effects and everything. This one's way above and beyond the best Resident Evil 4 video game. And like you said, even before this remake, this would have been on my
Yeah.
list, and it would have been this game number 4. It's
Yeah.
it's just the remake just anchored it in even more.
Yeah. Like I said, I almost considered this one. Especially because the Resident Evil 2 remake was done so well
Mhm.
also, which I never played the original for that one, but I played obviously the remake, and I'm like, this is super good.
Mhm.
So it's been on my wish list on Steam for so long. Like, I just haven't pulled the trigger on buying it. I have no idea why.
It's
Just
worth it,
other
for sure.
Oh, I know. I
Yeah.
know. It's one of the few games that have came out on that is like, I'm looking up. Hold on. Oh, Elden Ring's on sale. I'm looking at, because like Elden Ring has very positive reviews, with 514, but Resident Evil 4, the remake, has overwhelmingly positive reviews.
It's
Granted,
outstanding.
with significantly less, that's 53,000. So like a tenth less reviews. However, yeah, I have heard nothing negative about this game at all.
Yeah.
So I know I will get it played, and then whenever I upload this, I'll be like, damn it. So
All
yeah,
right.
I completely agree. I agree with you here. It's on my list in spirit.
Right.
It's like
Right.
it's like it's there, but it can't be because I haven't played this version yet.
Right. Right.
It's the same reason why another game did not make my list, even though it was considered. It might be on yours. I don't know if you've actually played all of it, but it was even considered to be on my list, but I haven't beaten it, and I couldn't justify putting it on my top 10 without having beaten the game. But we'll see if it's on your list within these next 5. So, well, now my number 5 is probably the biggest game in terms of writing, choices, dialogue. That's all the same thing. I don't know why I said 3 different writing and dialogue. Huh, what's that? Map. It's huge, and it's the best in this trilogy, without a doubt. So my number 5 is The Witcher
Yes.
3 Wild Hunt. This game is so good that it's impossible to go back. Like, there's times whenever I can play a later game, like a newer game, and still go back to the originals. Witcher 1 and 2 are so clunky that it's like I cannot play this anymore. But The Witcher 3, just the Witcher universe is fantastic. And just implores you to potentially even want to go out and read the books and watch some of the show, not any more of the show. Oh man, I think it went way downhill whenever they got rid of all the writers and quit caring about the source material, and then fired Henry Cavill. So it's like, yeah, cool, way to make smart decisions. Anyway, that has nothing to do with this. This game is so well done. The DLCs that they have for it are basically games of themselves. The amount of enemies that you can come across, the amount of bosses you can come across, the different builds you can do for Geralt. The story is extremely well done with the, like I said, choices that you can make, getting different endings. Also for just side quests alone, getting different endings is, I mean, it's the game that puts CD Projekt Red on the map. And then they tanked their reputation with Cyberpunk, but here's hoping they bring it back, because I know they're making another Witcher. I know they're making Witcher 4, but there's like no details on. I know they said Geralt's story is done, and I think that's fine. So I'm very curious if they actually go the route with Ciri.
I hope so.
I do too. That's what I would want, because the moments in this game, I guess slight spoilers, that you play as Ciri is, I think it's awesome. Like I have a great time playing as both characters. So just the sheer scope of this game, it looks fantastic, especially if you play it on PC where you can mod it up like I did. Because like that's just something that PC has, where I can mod it to make it look even better, and make my PC like 1,000,000 degrees. So, I mean, what can be said about this game that hasn't already been said elsewhere?
I love this game.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, it's outstanding.
So we might have a crossover. I didn't think we'd have any. So that is my number 5, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt.
Good choice. All right, so my number 5 is, there's a series of 4 main games in this series. You brought it up earlier, but my favorite of those 4 is the second one, just because of the scope of it and how it kind of broadened the world of this game series, and that is Uncharted 2 Among Us. I love them all. I like the original. I like 3 and 4. Like
4 is my favorite.
Yeah, and it was, you're kind of splitting hairs when you get to these, because they all are so much alike and so good and everything. But the difference between 1 and 2 was a big difference.
Yeah.
Like 2 is what really put it, and then the other 2 went off the style of this one, and with a lot more of the crazy, over the top, like, well, like he's doing on the cover right here. There's that part where the train's hanging over the cliff and you're
Yeah.
trying to like pull yourself up and all those crazy action sequences and stuff. You take the movie out of it, the movie means nothing in this
Oh, right. Yeah.
deal. They fucked the movie up because they put Mark Wahlberg as Saul
Sully.
Sully, and I was like,
L-
it had to be like an old guy. Sully's like an old dude,
Yeah.
But no, this one goes along kind of like what we talked when I brought up Rise of the Tomb Raider earlier. The same kind of stuff. You're treasure hunting for that relic, and you're doing all these different stuff, and these kind of games are what really pull me in. I like the whole third person shooter type where you're doing little puzzles and working your way through these tombs and different places. The stories are always really good. It's always action packed. The action sequences and shooting are really nice. It's funny, like the comedy of the Nathan Drake, the way he makes his one-liners and all that crap throughout the whole series. It wraps up nicely in 4, and stuff like that. So it's like, Naughty Dog is one of my favorite publishers, whether it be the Uncharted series, the Last of Us stuff, all that
Naughty
stuff.
Dog doesn't really have a miss that I can think of.
So anyway,
it is usually between this one and 4, I think, that a lot of people kind of pick between. So yeah, because
4 is more emotional. Like
and that's why it's my favorite.
Yeah.
And I think all the characters in this one, like you talked about, like the Tomb Raider series, but those are almost kind of like they're individual of themselves. The reason why Uncharted, I think, is more successful is because it's the same characters you see throughout the 4 games, so you've built an attachment to them. And especially by 4, Nathan Drake is like kind of relatable, in as much as you can relate to a character in this kind of scenario. So yeah, I think this is a banger. Yeah, Uncharted. I actually I realize I don't even own these games, and they have their Legacy of Thieves collection on Steam, and I'm like, oh shit.
But it's not all the games.
Is it not?
No, I wanted to buy that too to get them all. It's the Legacy of Thieves and then the DLC and the extra add-on thing. It's not Uncharted 1 through 4.
Oh, that's dumb.
Yeah, because I thought it was. I was like, hell yeah, I'm going to buy that just to have them all on the upgraded system. But it's just like the
yeah, you're right. What the
it's kind of dumb. I was like, man, if it was all in just one big case, that'd be sweet.
That would be pretty sweet. Well, never mind.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably end up because I only own. I think I only own this one, but I want to get updated versions of them for the next gen systems and stuff. But yeah, this one, like I said, 4 story is probably the best. This one, though, I put up here for the same reason like I did Gears of War. Like this one kind of set up the rest of the series as far as the design and graphics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just a great game overall.
Awesome. Good deal. Okay, so my number 4. Now, this one is actually extremely interesting because I didn't really like this game whenever I first played it. There was this, I knew I should have liked it, but there was just something about it that I just couldn't get into until I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm finally just gonna try and get past a certain part and then try and beat it. And here we are talking about my number 4 games of all time, video games of all time, and it's right here. So my number 4 is Tunic. So Tunic is another game that is it's indie design. That's one guy who made the entire game, and you can clearly see that it's inspired by Legend of Zelda. And a lot of people are kind of like, okay, if you like Dark Souls and you like Legend of Zelda, you're gonna love Tunic. And this game is one of the purest forms of a Zelda-esque kind of game because you have really no direction. It's like the OG Zelda where you're just kind of like, where the fuck do I go? And you have to figure it out yourself. So I kept getting stuck. Yeah, this is the one of the very first boss fights. But I kept getting stuck. Like I'm like, I have no direction because you're just given the coolest thing about this game is your guide is like the old school player manuals that you got in, the cartridge, or in the cassette, whatever those are called, where you
Mhm.
bought the game, like the
Right.
thing
Right.
that you open up. It's like an old school booklet. And this guy created this language that is there's a term for it, but it's like very phonetic. So a lot of the languages are kind of like based off of sound. And he created that, and people have figured out what the language is, and it's an insane way. I've tried to figure it out. I'm like, I can't follow this. But you don't need it to know the actual language, because it goes off of pictures. So at like the very beginning, like the first page you find, it's kind of like you see a picture and then the fox character like thinking, and then it's like A to swing sword or something like that. So you're
Right.
like, oh, okay, that's how I do it. And the entire game is you find these pictures, not these pictures, these pages that give you more and more detail, give you more information on where to go. And after got past the point, I'm like, okay, I think this is the direction I need to head. It just clicked, and it's wonderful. The final there's one major puzzle in this entire game, and I'm not going to give any spoilers on it, but it's the most like autistic kind of puzzle, but the most rewarding puzzle I've ever seen. It's like completely unique. I've never seen it before in any type of game. And if you do decide to ever play it, and I highly recommend you figure it out or look it up, because sometimes it is really left field, but man, it's so cool. And the fact that it was created by one guy is even more impressive. So yeah, like I love Legend of Zelda, I love Dark Souls, so it's just it is like a perfect blend to me, and that's why it's my number four.
Another one I haven't heard of.
It's on Game Pass actually,
Yeah, I might
so
check it out a little bit. I mean,
it's and I love the way it looks. I love the art style. Um, it's challenging as well, but yeah, a lot of the stuff is kind of trial error, and then eventually you kind of do figure out which direction you need to go, and once you understand like that manual and what the pages are really telling you, it's brilliant. Such a cool design that in today's day and age, it's like, wow, this is a hidden gem
right.
almost.
All right. Well, my number four is our first crossover.
Oh wow, okay, so we are
Yeah.
gonna have one.
Yep.
Nice.
And this one is a game that I've played all of them except for the little weird handheld spin-offs. And I really don't have anything to lead into it. I mean,
Gotcha.
um, I did something a little different with this game, I think, than you did because I played all the original ones. Um, and then I never played, you know, when the God of War, like the first of this style,
Oh,
you know?
2018.
Yeah. And then this was getting ready to come out, and I was like, well, it's only like $20, at those bargain
Yeah.
places. So I was like, so I bought it and I played it straight through. And as soon as I finished that one, I jumped right into this one, like immediately. Like one day I stopped one, and it's seamless. And
Nice.
and it's I've always liked this world anyway, but man, they took some awesome turns with this trilogy. And then this one, I mean, the God of War, the 2018 is still a masterpiece, but then
Hmm.
they somehow blew it out of the water with all the mythology, and this one with the Nordic mythology, and it's you would think controlling his son would be, but his son's a badass too, and
I
you're
know,
and
yeah.
stuff, and it's like, it's and the boss fights are masterful.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
okay,
they made the fights, they made fighting with Atreus just as fun.
Oh yeah.
Like, because I hated Atreus in the 2018 one.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't hate him. Like, I knew he was a kid,
Hmm.
so he acted like a kid would.
Hmm.
But obviously being an adult playing, and you're like, just shut up, shut up. You don't know. You don't know. You just don't
Right.
know.
Right. Well, and I think
And
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
yo, sorry. Go ahead. This is your pick.
Well, no, I was just going to say the thing I think I like about this one is because as big of a badass as he is, he,
Hmm.
he shows his age. Like they do those
Hmm.
parts in the story where man, he's so old, he just has to will himself to keep going, but he still kicks ass and is still a badass. But he's like, you can just tell he's been through some shit,
You're
throughout
talking
his
about,
life.
yeah, Kratos.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and he's just like, um, there's just so many times where it's like you just stand there, how in the hell is he going to do this? He's so fucking old and beat up and shit. But then it's like he
Yeah.
just comes through and stuff, and it's I would
Yeah, I
I
know.
love the fact when they pulled out the I can never remember the name of them, but the chains of chaos or whatever.
Oh yeah, the Blades of Chaos.
Yeah, because I was like, okay, are we just gonna do this axe the whole time? And then all of a sudden you unlock the chains. I'm like, oh yes.
Yeah.
And that so I mean it was really cool
Yeah.
entire game and cinematic, and it was just outstanding.
Yep. Yep. And yeah, without going into too many spoilers, I thought the ending was
Yeah.
like, I was like, yes, awesome. That's the ending I wanted. So
Yep.
very curious to see what they do from this point on. But yeah, this one's great.
Yep. For sure.
Can't do a whole lot without talking about very specifics, but
Yeah.
I don't want to rob anyone of those moments.
Right.
Uh, all right, awesome. Well, now we are into the top three, and man, this is where it got insanely hard. After the Pub Meeple kind of came through, I was like, I'm okay with this. I can't think about it too much because three, two, and one are. I mean, granted, I give all these games like almost all of them 10 out of 10s.
Mhm.
Like nine out of 10s, 10 out of 10s. These three are 10 out of 10s. Not even a question. So my number three is the second game I have on this list that is from FromSoft. And like we said at the beginning of this video, it was we mentioned that we weren't going to do franchises. So I asked Brad, I was like, is this a franchise? But it's like they're not related
Mhm.
in any way. Um, and this is the newest game from Software, and that is Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What to say about Elden Ring? 20 million copies sold. It's clearly like, I think if I'm not mistaken, um the creator of I don't want to butcher it. I'm pretty sure it's Miyazaki. Creator of Dark Souls is, yes, Miyazaki. Good deal. I'm pretty sure he said that Elden Ring is the closest that they've come to his perfect game. And this game has set the bar for open world games, in my opinion, just because so many games that come out, even God of War Ragnarok kind of does this, and I know Horizon Zero Dawn kind of handholds the players. Like if you come across a puzzle in God of War Ragnarok, you'll come across the puzzle and they're like, "Oh, what if we shoot that thing?" It's like, can you give me like a second to like at least try to figure it out? It's like, no, there's no problem in giving hints to the players to get them to keep going, but it's like, don't tell me it immediately. Elden Ring gives you none of that. It's like, all right, here you go. Go out and go into the world, and you'll figure it out yourself. You're going to go to an area and be like, I can't kill a single enemy here. Um, and then you just leave, and then you go and get a different weapon, and then you level up and do a different build, get different uh Art of War stuff, and then you come back and then you beat that boss or you beat that enemy. It's just such a perfect open world that's centered in this amazing universe with like just as much lore as like the Dark Souls games. Um, Slight spoiler, I do not have any Dark Souls games on my list because I have actually not beaten any of them. I'm currently playing Dark Souls 3 to beat that, but I've played 1 and 3. Just I haven't ever beaten them. And Elden Ring, I have beaten 2 full times now with 2 different builds, and I'm on my 3rd one uh, to do, just because there's so many ways to play this game, so many like just weapons and spells that it's, I mean, almost like infinite replayability on just how you want to play your character, and they're all viable ways. There are clearly ways to make a broken build, um, and that's fine. Like, that's Elden Ring is so accessible to people who just couldn't be the boss in Dark Souls. Like, Dark Souls is, they're linear in a way. You have to beat bosses to progress. Elden Ring, you don't have to beat a whole lot of bosses to progress. You have to obviously beat some to get to the ending, but if you're like, I can't fucking, I can't parry, I can't dodge time. Okay, cool. Go make a magic build. Here's the items you need to one-shot bosses with magic. Whatever you want to do as a player, go do it, and don't let the fucking sweats who who just want to be assholes online be like, oh, you didn't actually beat him because you didn't struggle for hours like I did. It's like, so it sounds like you're the idiot. Like, just play this game however you want to play. It's a masterful world. My only small complaint is that because it is open world, you can come across bosses too early or too late. Like, if so, you might hit that or miss that brilliance that is a From Software boss, that a lot of the other ones have. But I never really found like that to be an issue for the most part, because there's so many bosses. So it's like some builds will do better than others, and you as the player can decide how challenging you want it to be. Make it as easy or as hard as you as a player wants it to be. So it's just so it's just fucking great. And how many hours do I have into it? Hold on, I'm gonna pull up Steam real quick. I currently have, and this is gonna be nothing compared to a lot of people, 150 at 4 hours is how many I have in Elden Ring.
Yeah.
So yeah, I absolutely love this game. It's so much fun, and I cannot wait for the DLC to come out because it's just going to be so awesome. So that's my number 3, Elden Ring.
All right, good choice. My number 3 is another crossover.
Oh, okay. This is the one I thought it was going to be. I didn't think God of War Ragnarok. I would guess Witcher 3.
Yeah, you're right.
Nice.
Yeah, this one, this one, and my next 2. I knew my first 3 on this list immediately.
Gotcha.
Mainly, especially when we said one per franchise. If we weren't doing that, then it would have shuffled it. But this game and the next 2 are 3 games that I 100%ed.
No way.
all the way through and everything. So
wow.
I mean, I played a metric ton of this game, all the DLCs. I when you beat the game, you just go around and just do everything, and this is one of those that just caught my fascination, and went through and did this. But yeah, this one, you truly feel like a badass all the way. The story is awesome, like you'd said before. The world is enormous. There's so much cool, builds you can do with him and different stuff with different, using his, I can't even think what the hell they call him now, his little abilities.
Oh, his
yeah, I can't think of him right now, but
I mean, signs, aren't they?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. But just the cool deal, having the trophies and all that crap. And this was one of those, I played the first 2 just to beat the story. I didn't do anything extra. And then I got this one. I was like, well, might as well finish out the trilogy if it was just going to be a trilogy. Yeah. And I was like, holy shit, this game is so much better than the first 2. And this is one of those games you sit down with. And a lot of these games on this list for both of us are like this, but this is one in particular. You'd sit down and start playing, and then you'd look up and like, God damn, it's been 6 hours.
Yeah.
It's just like, this one was just so damn good. And so the story is so good. And then So I don't know, the DLC was awesome because they were just like you had said, they're just full freaking games in their own right. The DLCs
Yeah.
are so enormous too, and you really get your bang for your buck on this game. And you can even get this
Mhm.
game cheap now, really.
Yeah.
You can get that whole collect the complete collection or whatever with all the DLC and stuff, and it was like $20 at Walmart
Yeah.
and stuff, and it's definitely worth it. I mean, they
Yeah,
actually
it's
have a
fucking
new
$12, right? $15
right.
for the complete edition right now.
Is that the next gen, like the PS5 and the Series X? Because I
It's
know
on Steam.
they re-released them
Yeah.
for PS5 and stuff, so those are a little bit more expensive, but
Yeah. Oh, that's right. They did a next gen update, but it's $15 right now. But I think it's because of the Steam summer sale,
yeah,
which won't
but
be going on while when this uploads.
yeah. So I mean, I mean, if you have any interest in this, I mean, you're going to get more bang for your buck with this game than most games. Just for it
Yeah.
being that cheap, and it's just wonderful, outstanding.
And you don't need to play the other two
No,
to
no,
to
you
know
don't
what's
even have
going
to
on
at
in
all.
this one.
No,
You
not
won't
one bit.
really, I mean, there's like some very small things that you might not get, but yeah, like virtually at the very beginning of the game, there are some. I think it asks you like a few questions at the very beginning that are related to the other ones, but you don't. They don't really
Well,
matter.
and then some characters carry over and stuff too that you see.
Yeah,
So, I mean, but other than that, I mean, it really isn't that big of a deal. Game is so in depth and long that I mean, it's its own entity. I mean, that stuff just kind of goes
yeah,
past, and the
yeah.
conversation you
This
can talk with
game,
practically anybody. It's just like you know,
exactly. Yeah, this game actually is the reason why Cyberpunk, why its main story was so short, because they shortened the main story of Cyberpunk because no one beat the main story for this one because it
mhm.
was just so long. Uh,
Except for me.
but no, I definitely I beat the main story and played the DLCs. I did not 100% this
But
game,
yes.
but that's mainly, and the reason why it's because I fucking hate Gwent. I hate that
Yeah,
game. I
I got
hate that
to.
card game.
I don't like it either, but I was like, I saw all the damn achievements for it. I'm like, yep, I got it. I got to learn how to play this goddamn game.
I
And I spent
know
hours playing that damn game.
all the different decks, but I know I'm in the minority. I know actually quite a few people do like it. And it does go to show just how much their content this game has, that they have a mini game in the game.
Yeah.
That usually doesn't happen. So yeah, I mean obviously it's on my list too. So I agree with you. I agree with you
All right.
there. Okay, there's no way in hell we're having any more CrossFit. Well, actually, unless you, I know what your number one is.
I know what your number one is, and it's not going to be a crossover.
Yeah. So my number two, if I was being subjective, my number two would probably be my number one, just because of the just how my office is, and if you watch my channel for any significant amount of time, you would see a theme that's constantly pumping in. However, slightly objectively, my number one is still my number one. But, and this is where it got hard, because my number two is from a long running series. And this one is still my favorite, even though I haven't beat the newest one. I haven't even come close because I've barely scratched the surface of it. So that one might be my favorite, but currently my number two is The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, the best Legend of Zelda game in my opinion. I mean, there's so many, like there's so many in here that are good. Like my top three, I'm cheating. My top three Zelda games are Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, and then this one. But this one just has just I love the art style that it's in it. I love the companion. I love the sword fighting. I love the items. I love the dungeons. And I actually have recently replayed this. Kat and I went through. I've been showing her like the Zelda game. So we beat Link's Awakening, and then we beat fucking Skyward Sword, the remake, which was slightly better but still bad. Then we beat Wind Waker, which is fantastic, and then we just beat this one. Oh no, and then I beat Breath of the Wild. And now we're currently going through Tears of the Kingdom. But the Legend of Zelda has been with me ever since I was a kid. growing up with it. Like, I mean, I'm actually wearing a Twilight Princess hat right now. I have posters of Legend of Zelda. There's just something about this universe that speaks to me just at a core level. I am a sucker for heroic good guy saves the world. Like, it's kind of my favorite animes, my favorite shows. I want the good guy to win. I know a lot of people like, it's like, hey, you have to have interesting villains, and then this one, Ganon is such a badass, and the edgy, dark Twilight setting that they give you. Midna is one of the best companions in the entire series. There's just so much to this, and with the dungeons, like, that kind of is what makes a Zelda game for me, is how well are the dungeons crafted. This has some of the best ones. They have some stinkers. Every Zelda game has some really shitty dungeons. But this one has some of the best ones. And yeah, this has been my favorite since I played it. I've played this through multiple times. And it's actually one of the reasons why I don't really like Breath of the Wild as much. I like it a lot better since I finally went back this year and beat it. But the lack of dungeons, it's kind of frustrating. So yeah, like, subjectively, Twilight Princess or Legend of Zelda as a series is my number one game, but yeah, I have to keep Twilight Princess as my number two right now. So
Yeah, I haven't played this one. I had a Zelda game on my short list, but
okay, which one?
it was old school, Link to the
Mm,
Past. That was my first Zelda game, and that was
yeah,
one of my favorites.
The Link to the Past is still great. They did one for the 3DS, Link Between Worlds,
Hmm.
which was basically Link to the Past, just a little bit tweaked a little bit. And I've played that one, and that one is really good. I just need Nintendo to quit being fuckwads and put these games on the Switch.
Yeah,
Like, I don't understand why they keep sucking off Mario. It's like, why do you hate money? Why would you not port these onto your newest console? Like, put Wind Waker and this one HD, because they have HD remakes. This is the
right.
HD remake. They have a Wind Waker one. They have 3D or HD remakes for Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time. Port them onto your fucking
Yeah,
newest console.
yep.
Ugh, it's so frustrating. But who knows? I mean, maybe it's right around the corner. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, but yeah, the Legend of Zelda series is definitely like, they have I mean, there's not really a bad one. Even Skyward Sword, which is, like, to a lot of people is the worst one, still has a really good story. It was just they put too much into the motion controls that made it kind of ass.
Hmm.
Uh, but I mean, it still has a fan base, and people just think it's their favorite, and that's why this series is so good, because everyone has their favorite one. Tears of the Kingdom right now is actually great. Like, I'm having a really good time with it. So, a friend of mine just beat it, and he was saying, because this is his favorite as well, but he's like, man, Tears of the Kingdom might be my favorite one, and I'm like, well, I have a Wii U. You can borrow and play Twilight Princess again and definitively say which one's your favorite. So, but I have a feeling, because the Nintendo has said this is like, the way the Zelda games are going forward are going to be like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So I think eventually there will be kind of like oh, this is my favorite Zelda of the open world ones.
Hmm.
You know, Breath of the Wild on, and then and then the OG kind of Zelda game. So I
Yep.
don't know. This one right now is still my favorite, and that's why it's my number two.
All right. So my number two is a crossover.
Oh shit.
No, I'm just joking.
Oh, I'm like, is it
It's
really? And I'm like, what did I say? Oh
my
my
last
god,
two
you
have been
finally
crossovers.
played and beat Elden Ring.
Now, my number two is a game that I've been playing since the very, very beginning when it first came out on PC. It was a 2D
Oh,
action point allocation type style game. And then in 2008, Bethesda got it and came out with a 3D full range RPG version, and that is Fallout 3. I
that's
like
right.
I
As soon as you were talking about it, I'm like, oh, that's yeah, there, that's the one. That's his
Yeah,
number two.
I had a little trouble deciding which one, which Fallout I wanted to put on, between New Vegas and this one.
Okay.
But then I went back and I looked at time played, and I put 350 hours into this game.
Oh my god.
Um, so because this was another, like I said, 100% completed.
Wow.
And because I mean, I would get on the map and I would literally walk up and down the map, and do every single little thing I
Wow.
do and everything.
They had
And
some DLC for this one, didn't they?
oh, tons. There's a lot.
They had a bunch. Okay.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them for this. And I finished all those, and 100% of those as well. This one is just
Your daughter fucked up. Why is this not a death claw? That's the picture that is Fallout. Are
a
the
rad
death claws.
scorpion. It's a rad scorpion. I mean, but
I mean, I'd still be terrified.
yeah, but this was just opened up so much, because like this was the first game, to my knowledge, back when this came out, was when you would take your shot, you'd use VATS, which would stop the motion. You could choose the area to shoot them, which was in the PC version as well, but it just didn't have like the whole 3D effects. But you choose where you wanted to shoot them, and then when you would shoot, it would track the bullet and then and hit them, and it was just like, that was so damn cool, especially when you'd shoot like the mini nuke, and it would like, you'd fall, the little mini nuke would just go through and fall, and all of a sudden you'd land on stuff, and you can do so much with this game, and the story was solid. I would say story wise, New Vegas was probably, in my opinion,
Yeah, I think the aesthetic of New Vegas is what got a lot of people. I think that's a lot of people's favorites.
Right. But this one was
between these two.
Yeah. I liked 4. I like them all. I just
Fallout 76.
No, God, I've never even touched Fallout 76, because it goes against everything that this universe is for. It's not a multiplayer freaking online game. It's a solo.
Pay $100 for a blue jacket.
Like, nope, I haven't even touched it out of protest.
Oh yeah.
Like, nope. So hopefully, I mean, there's been those rumors of 5 being worked on. So, but that's kind of all been quiet since Starfield is coming out.
Starfield, and then they know Elder Scrolls 6.
Right. So there's been rumors that it's going to be like a New Orleans setting for 5.
That'd be cool.
I don't know how true that is or not, but how
there's no way Todd Howard's going to be behind it.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's hard. I just know that I will play it if it comes out, if it's the solo stuff with no multiplayer. And this game is, if you put 350 freaking hours into a game, you like it. I mean, that's I don't even know how many days that is. I'd have to do math.
Let's do some quick math. Some sweet quick math with a calculator. 350 divided by 24. That is 14 and a half days.
Yeah, 14 and a half days of my life spent playing this game. And
that's true.
There was even times where I'd be playing it so late, I would like fall asleep playing it, and then I'd look up and I'd be like running against a wall, and stuff. It's just like,
that is crazy, man.
Yeah. So no, it's always will be one of my top. This is almost like how you were talking about Zelda. That's how I am with this. Like, this could have easily been my number 1. But at the end of the day, I mean, my number 1 is my number 1, and we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But my number 2 is Fallout 3.
Nice. Okay. Well, my number 1, which was not my number 1 whenever I did this list last time. I don't remember what I had on my number 1. I know I had a bunch of different games that did not make this list. Bradathan, do you have any guesses on what my number 1 is?
I know what it is.
Do you have any guesses? I've changed.
Oh, it's Bloodborne.
The third From Software game, my number 1 is very much Bloodborne. There is just, oh God, I've gotten every ending to this game. I have 100% of this game, which really is annoying, because to get one weapon, you have to go through the Chalice dungeons, which are procedurally generated, and that is not fun to get that weapon. But I have 100% of this. I don't have a PS4 anymore, so I actually can't play this. And when I borrowed my friend's PS5 to play God of War Ragnarok, he had Bloodborne on there, and I was like, man, do I really want to buy a PS5 to play Bloodborne? I'm waiting on a fucking PC release. Like, I don't understand why Sony sucks so bad. Yeah, and this is the game.
Oh,
God, it's
jeez.
so bad. So this is the game that actually got me into FromSoft games, because I tried Dark Souls before this and I just hated it. I hated why most people hate it. It's too hard. And a friend of mine really liked him. He became a neighbor at one point, and I was like, okay, I really want to try and beat this. Will you play with me? And like, if I die, I can just hand it off, and then you could try. And there's a boss in this game called the Bloodstarved Beast. And I remember I tried to fight him. I would die, get frustrated, hand him the controller. And as he was fighting it, I was like watching, and I was like, okay, like I think I'm getting its pattern. Like, okay, yeah. And then he died, and I was like, okay, yeah, let me try. And then I beat it. And that high that you get from these bosses, there's just no other game that I've gotten that from. Like, just that elation of figuring out the boss's patterns and actually doing the timing right and defeating it is just awesome. The Victorian Gothic era with a Lovecraftian twist on it is right up my alley. I mean, literally my entire like sleeve that I'm working on right now is a Lovecraft sleeve. And this and the moon that's on my arm is actually attributed to this. I tied in some Bloodborne to this sleeve. I have no complaints on this game, except that it's 30 frames per second, which I know a lot of people complain about. I don't really have an issue with that too much. So I'm just sitting here waiting on a remaster or a Bloodborne 2 or a PC port, and I'll be happy with any of those three. The bosses in this game are the best bosses I think are in any From Software game. But clearly I have a soft spot for their games, because 3 of my top 10 are From Software games.
Yep.
Yeah, like these have some of the hardest bosses in the entire industry. Like they're so good. And that's my number 1.
Awesome.
Bloodborne.
Yeah, I figured as much. Okay, so for my number 1.
Yeah, so you would think it'd be a Star Wars game, but I know it's not. And I'm actually amazed that you don't have any Star Wars games in your top 10.
I had one in my top 20.
Gotcha.
It's Knights of the Old Republic, the old RPG.
Oh, okay. I figured it would have been Jedi.
I didn't get into that a whole lot yet. I haven't really put much time into it, though. I mean, I like it. I just haven't put as much time into it.
Yeah.
That's what the game is.
So, yeah. So, are you gonna go controversial? I don't know.
Controversial? What do you mean?
Well, if it's the game, if it's the series, I think it is. Then yeah, technically, I think. I mean, no one talks about it anymore. But when the sequel came out, I know it was pretty divisive for a lot of people. But I'm gonna go with the first Last of Us.
The first Last of Us?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I'm like,
my button didn't work.
You did go with the second one. Okay, that's the controversy.
And I don't get it. That pisses me off, the whole controversy thing. I don't understand it because
it was just
because that one event got spoiled, people get all butthurt about it, and it's like, like who gives a shit? Like I have never played a game with as much emotion. And I mean, I'm getting prepared to play my 6th playthrough of part 1 and part 2. Once I'm Diablo 4 kind of settles down a little bit.
Yeah.
This game I can play over and over and over, and it's just so much emotion goes into it, and I've never felt that way with a game before. I mean, part 1 is solid. And like if we weren't picking from franchise, my 1 and 2 would have been this, and then part 1 is my number 2. Like this series is above and beyond, just because the gameplay is so awesome. The storytelling is awesome. I'm not going to spoil anything, but like this game is like 2 games in one.
Mhm.
And uh because you play through that whole first part, and then it's like this event happens, and it's like this, it comes to this climax, and then all of a sudden, boop, oh, now we're going to start the whole game from this other way,
Yeah.
and then you play all the way back up to that crescendo, and it's like, ah, man, I don't know. This one's just one of those games that just it just hit me right, and I, again, like the sneaking around, that's been a theme in a lot of my games on this. There's a lot of
Mhm.
stealth in this game, and because if you play it the non-pussy way and play it the regular or harder difficulty, ammunition and stuff is very limited.
Okay.
Um, Kind of like a Resident Evil game, so it's like
Yeah.
you have to sneak around and take people out, stealthily and stuff like that. And then when this TV series came out, it was
It's
everything I
true.
wanted it to be as well. And they've said that they're breaking part two into 2 seasons.
Smart.
Um, which is, yeah, I mean, they would be stupid to try to shove all the stuff that happens in part two into one season.
Mhm.
And then they're working on 3 right now. And
Oh, they
I
are. I didn't know that they were making a
no,
third one. Oh, I guess
it's
that makes sense.
yeah, they're working on. I hope it comes out within the next like 3 years,
Mhm.
because then they could keep the TV series going.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they've got 2 seasons. It's first part of season 2 will be next year, and then they'll be probably a year and a half for the next one. And it's like
Yeah,
there's time, and they'll already know the story. For
true.
this, because Druckmann, the writer for this game and creator, is doing the TV series too.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, he'll actually keep up with this shit, unlike George R. R. Martin, with
I know.
getting paced and stuff. But this game, I forgot to click the picture. This
God,
game's
I would
just,
laugh so hard if it was if it was that scene. It's like
oh
she
no.
just totally like, oh, this looks like an important part.
But man, because I went into this game completely unspoiled, like,
Nice. Yeah.
and like I knew nothing about what was happening, and then
Mhm.
so I mean that hit me hard anyway. But again, I don't mind spoilers. Like I don't mind being spoiled on TV shows that I watch or
Yeah.
stuff like that. I still enjoy them, one way or the other. And but just the the fact that you get to play an 18-year-old Ellie in this one, instead of like the first one, you were mainly controlling Joel with her being a sidekick. This one's mostly Ellie you're controlling and stuff. So
Mhm.
um and the controls in part two are more seamless. There is a not as
Yeah.
much, because when they came out with the the remastered part one, they came out with part one for PS5. It had the same art as this, because the graphics were different. So
Right.
they upgraded part one's art to this type. And I'm still waiting for them to come out with a PS5 upgraded rendition of this game, because they haven't yet. They have the
Mhm.
PS5 part one. I'm assuming there's going to be a part two upgrade for
Yeah,
PS5.
you'd think.
Um, but no, AI is wonderful in this game. It's super tense. The Play it with headphones on, so when the clickers are around, it just freaks the shit out of you,
Yeah.
and everything. So yeah, I mean, this series is by far my favorite series that I could just play over and over and over.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't played part two. I played part one once and I was like, yeah, this is good. Um but I think around that same time I was also doing like Uncharted, so they all kind of blended together,
Right.
of just kind of gameplay. Uh but I mean it's Naughty Dog. They hit the nail on the head every time with their gameplay and their storytelling. So it's like you can tell when Uncharted 4 came out, there was some inspiration around how The
Mhm.
Last of Us did storytelling as well as Uncharted 4, because it was the most story heavy. Um, and the only thing I knew about this was a lot of people hated it. And by a lot of people, I mean just fucks on Twitter, and Twitter's
Yeah.
a wasteland where no one matters. So
Yeah, I don't get
everyone
it.
I knew in person loved this game,
Mhm.
but everyone online was just like just talking shit on it. But it was just that flavor of the week. Next week it was something else they were bitching
Mhm.
about. So it's like, okay, well, you must have not felt that strongly.
Yeah,
You were really opinionated during that video, but your video was based off nothing.
yeah. And the thing I like about this is you can see those things on YouTube, like they have like because Naughty Dog uses the whole or whatever they call that when they're filming it. They use real actors. They put the green balls all over it and stuff.
Mocap.
Yeah, and they do that, and there's that scene from part one, which isn't really a spoiler because it happens in the very first 10 minutes of the game when Joel's daughter dies, and there's that scene. They just keep running that guy through that scene, and he's just so tore up. Troy Davis.
Yep. Troy Baker.
Troy Baker, yeah. But you can just tell he's just ripping his soul out, and he does that scene. They're like, "Let's try it one more time," and he gathers himself and does it again. It's just like, my God.
Yeah,
There's so much emotion in this game.
Yeah, with Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah, they kill it.
No,
I mean, I wasn't sure which one you liked
Mhm.
better between the two, so I wasn't sure which one you were gonna pick.
I like this one way better. I love the first one, but this one doubles the first one just because of the length of gameplay. You have that, gosh, I don't know how to say it. Like, you don't know really who's good and who's bad by the time the game's over. You know, it's like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
get
Well,
to
they
see
kind
it
of
from-
did. Yeah.
you get to see it from both sides of the coin and stuff, and it's
hmm
it's really cool. I have the soundtracks downloaded for this that's actually has Ashley Johnson, Troy Baker singing like the Pearl Jam song and
Oh, yeah.
and like these songs that they do in the game and stuff.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's just so good.
Awesome. Well, that is it, everyone. That is our top 10 video games of all time. Yeah, I mean, I can say like without a doubt that these 10 games mean more to me than any board game. Like there's just something about video
I can
games.
agree with that. Yeah.
I don't know, there's just something about them that it's like like board games have come quite a ways with writing, especially like there's a lot lately like that it's like, man, this writing is actually really good. But I don't know. I think it's because you're still disconnected. Like video games just pull you in with
Yeah. Yep.
with stuff that board games still have yet to do. But as app integration, then that get like kind of muddies the water. Yeah, I mean, I could talk about the importance of these 10 games over and over and over, but I couldn't really do that about my top 10 board games.
Oh yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that. I was a video gamer way before I was a board gamer, and that's still a big part. There was a lot of games that just missed my top 10 that I thought might have been on your list. I had BioShock and Halo and
actually Halo 4 it was on my short list.
I had the original.
The first one.
Yeah.
I've been a defender of Halo 4 since it came out. I absolutely love that story and its gameplay, but it just missed the list. I actually don't like BioShock.
Really?
I've played all three. I think I just missed the mark. Infinite is clearly the better one out of the three, I think.
That's my least favorite. I like the underwater ones better.
Oh yeah, they were just too fucking edgelord. I hate God, and I'm like, this is I know people like this, and
the ending of Infinite was better. I'll put it that way. Like I love the first ones better, but then that ending, like the after credits and all that stuff of Infinite was like really hit hard.
Yeah, the gameplay. I mean, and I think the gameplay is just dated for me because I played them like a couple months ago. Actually, I played all three of them. No, sorry, I skipped two. I actually played the first one and I played Infinite, and I liked Infinite the best. But I was like,
with the next gen of BioShock 1.
Oh, they did.
I haven't played it yet, but
yeah. I mean, I guess we could talk about like games that were like we don't have to spend a whole lot.
Well, I mean, I could just run down my next 10 really fast. I got them right here. We don't have to really talk about them. I mean,
My 12 was Mass Effect 2. We kind of talked about that. My 13 was Far Cry 3. My 14 was my Borderlands entry. It was Tiny Tina's Wonderland. Have you ever played that?
No, because I heard it was bad as a looter shooter.
I loved it.
It was on sale. I'm like, that could be fun.
Yeah, it's got magic, and it's like you're playing inside of a D&D campaign because all that stuff.
I would have picked Borderlands 3.
Yeah, that was my next one. Like it was right there. City of Heroes. It was a PC MMO where you created a superhero or a supervillain and went around. Dragon Age Origins.
Yeah.
Then I had Zelda: Link to the Past, Halo, Tecmo Super Bowl, the old school.
No idea.
Not Tecmo Bowl, but Tecmo Super Bowl. It's just an NFL game from Super Nintendo. BioShock, and then Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic. That was my my deal.
Yeah, my 12 through 20 was Red Dead Redemption 2. Even though I haven't beaten it, but where I've gotten, it's just fucking phenomenal, and I know it's only going to get better. Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, because it's, as a fighting game, it's the best one. It's the one I'm good at. I'm not that great at traditional fighters, even though I've really been interested in wanting to get into Street Fighter 6 because it looks so cool. But I'm just like, I'm like kind of like a what's the word? Intimidated by the learning curve. So yeah, I remember playing the first one on the Nintendo 64, and Ultimate is just everything. Risk of Rain 2, which is actually a roguelike. That one is a cooperative roguelike with infinite replayability. That one's a lot of fun. Gunfire Reborn is a first-person shooter roguelike. That one's an absolute blast to play. Animal Crossing, sweet, like a soft spot in my heart. Just you build your house and you have animal neighbors. Then we get into Halo 4, which is, I still think the ending of that game is phenomenal. And then it tanked. Then 343 decided to just straight up shit in everyone's mouth with Halo 5, and Infinite is on the right track. I thought Halo Infinite was fun and a decent story, mainly because they retconned a lot of stuff from 5. They're like, yeah, 5 didn't really happen.
Right.
Then Resident Evil 4, which we kind of talked about whenever you brought it up. That probably would have been way higher had I played the remake. Skyrim was actually at 19. I sunk so many hours into that as a kid. Skyrim got a little bit tainted because they just kept trying to milk that shit over the years. And then Overwatch.
Yeah.
Because that's my favorite multiplayer game. But again, Blizzard kind of tanked it, but it's still an absolute blast to play.
Diablo 4. That's where it's at right now.
That's what it seems like. Yeah, if the game's actually challenging and your builds aren't one-tapping bosses, so it's boring as fuck, then yeah, I'll have to give Diablo 4 a try.
Yeah, I mean, I went in with the Chads last night into a World Tier 4, and I'm not really ready for World Tier 4, and I died probably 8 or 9 times in a row and had to be revived. I mean, it was,
Yeah. Okay, well, that was it, everyone. That was our top 10 video games of all time. Let us know what you think of these games in the comments below, and also let us know what your favorite video games are. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.